At 25 years old, I had about $25 to my name. My car payment was late, my credit cards were late. I had just lost my job because of COVID. And I'll keep it all the way real with you. For about a day, I did absolutely nothing. I was overwhelmed. I had so much anxiety. I didn't know what I was going to do next. And I came to a realization that changed my life. Nobody was coming to save me. Not my family, not my friends, definitely not the government, nobody. And once I realized that, I went into straight grind mode. Now, at this time in my life, I already knew how to repair phones. I loved doing it. I was good at it, most importantly. And I had worked for other repair companies before, so I understood the business side of things. And because I went to school for business, and I had tried other businesses beforehand, I felt like I had a decent understanding of what it would take. So I started I Travel to You. One of the first things I did was go door to door in my neighborhood and hand out flyers. I would take any repair. I didn't care where it was. There were days that I would drive from deep Long Island all the way into Manhattan for a repair. If somebody called, I was going. It didn't matter what the situation was. And then something happened. In my second month, I made about $6,000 in revenue. Bro, I thought I cracked the code. I thought I finally figured out success. I hired my friend, I hired my cousin, I hired my cousin's friend. We had so many repairs that I was out on the road full time while they were as well, and we still couldn't keep up with repairs. I felt like I was on top of the world. I thought this was it. I thought I finally made it. All right, so then reality hit. After the first year in business, right after New Year's, I had to make one of the hardest decisions I've ever made for my business. So for a little backstory, most of my business was coming through Groupon. On the outside, things looked great. People saw the company growing, they saw repairs coming in, they saw that I had a team, they saw that I was successful, and I was. But what they didn't see was the financial side. After Groupon took their cut, and after all the expenses were paid, I was barely breaking even. And I'll be very honest with you, I knew something had to change. So I made the decision to cut Groupon off. And because of that decision, I also had to let my technicians go. And that hurt. These weren't random people. These were people that I knew, people that I grew up with, my friend, my cousin, people that I cared about. And they relied on me. But I knew that if I didn't make that decision, there might not be a business left at all. The craziest part, after I made that decision, business dried up completely. There were times where I would wake up and check my phone, nothing. I would check again later, still nothing. Some weeks would go by and the phone wouldn't ring a single time. And that's when the doubts started creeping in. Did I make the wrong decision? Did I mess everything up? Should I have just kept things the way that they were? For the first time since I started the company, I started questioning whether this whole thing was actually going to work. All right, so let's fast forward maybe 2 years later. Another challenge hit. So at this point in my business, I actually met a business partner and we did very well together. He supplied the work and I supplied the production. And he was my business partner for a long time. And then one day, he passed away. He was an older Jewish man. And honestly, I looked at him like the Jewish dad I never had. Over the years, we became close. He met my family. I met his family. We talked business. We talked life. We talked religion. he put me onto game when it came to running a business more efficiently. He also showed me how to put God at the center of my business. So when he passed away, it hurt. Not just because of the business, but because I genuinely cared about him. And to make matters worse, a large portion of my repairs came through him. So now I'm grieving somebody that I respected while also trying to figure out how to keep the business moving forward. There were times I had to drive Uber just to make ends meet. And if you've ever been through a season like that, you know how humbling it can be. 1 minute you feel like you're winning. The next minute, you're just trying to figure things out. But looking back now, I think God was really just trying to teach me something. He was teaching me not to put my trust in any one person or any one client or any one opportunity, because all of those things can disappear. But he does not. All right, so now here's where the story takes a turn. Because if you would have asked me back then what I wanted out of life, I probably would have told you more money, more freedom, a successful business, beautiful women, the things a lot of young men chase after. And don't get me wrong, there is nothing wrong with wanting to make money. There's nothing wrong with building a successful business. And to be honest with you, there's nothing wrong with even wanting a beautiful woman. I still believe in those things. But after a while, I started asking myself a question. Now what? I had the business. I was making money. I was working for myself. I had accomplished things that the younger me would have been super proud of. But I still felt like something was missing. I remember laying in bed one night asking myself, is this really what life is about? Okay, let's say I make a lot of money. Then what? Buy a bigger house? A nicer car? Flex on my neighbors? The more I thought about it, the more empty that felt. And that's when I started realizing there had to be more to life than just success. Around that time, I came across the 75 Hard Challenge. And if you've never heard of it, it's basically this. It's 75 days of discipline. You work out twice a day, read every day, follow a strict diet, track your progress, no excuses. I was going through a difficult season in my life, and honestly, it sounded like the type of challenge that I needed. So I started immediately. I didn't wait till Monday. I didn't wait until next week. I started right away. And somehow, I completed all 75 days. Every single workout, every page, every single day. And then something hit me. If I can read 10 pages of a book every single day for 75 straight days, if I can work out twice a day for 75 straight days, if I can stick to a strict diet for 75 straight days, then why can't I read the Bible every day? And that one question changed everything. Because once I started reading the Bible consistently, I started noticing something. The problems I was dealing with, the struggles I was having, the questions I was asking, they were all in there. I felt like God was speaking directly into situations I was dealing with in real time. And little by little, he started drawing me closer to him. Now, if you've been following along, you might think this is the part where everything just magically got better. It wasn't. I was reading the Bible. I was growing. I was learning. But I was still struggling. One of the biggest battles that I was dealing with at the time was lust. And no matter what I did, I couldn't seem to beat it. I would make progress, then fall back. Make more progress, then fall back again. And eventually, I got to a point where I was just exhausted. I remember being in my bedroom by myself one night, and I was crying out to Jesus. Not because life was perfect, not because I had everything figured out, but because I was tired of fighting the same battle over and over again. And I remember saying to myself, Lord, if you deliver me from this addiction, I will give my life to you. And I will never forget what happened next. It wasn't like the movies. The room didn't start shaking. I didn't hear an audible voice. But in that moment, I felt a rush come over my body. And I knew God was with me. The best way I can describe it is like this. It felt like he was saying, I got you, bro. And for the first time in a long time, I had hope. Now here's the important part. My addiction did not disappear overnight. And I wish I could tell you that it did, but it didn't. The battle was still there, the temptation was still there, but something had changed. For the first time, I felt like I had power over it. For the first time, I felt like I could win. And that moment started a spiritual journey that completely changed my life. Looking back now, I realized something. I thought I traveled to you was the destination. The truth is, it was the training ground. God used that business to teach me things I could not have learned any other way, at least for my life. I learned how to lead, how to communicate, how to stay calm under pressure, how not to fold when life gets hard, because it will, how to keep going when everybody around you is telling you to quit, how to trust in Him when the money isn't there, how to trust in Him when the opportunities aren't there, and how to trust in the Lord when the future doesn't make sense. And maybe the biggest lesson of all, how to build a foundation that doesn't crumble when life gets difficult. The craziest part about all of this is that I really started with nothing. $25, late bills, a car that was about to be repossessed, tons of anxiety, and a whole lot of uncertainty. But God took all of that and turned it into something incredible. Not just the business, me. If I never started I Travel to You, I honestly don't think I'd be the man that I am today. I wouldn't have the resilience, the fortitude, or the faith, and I definitely wouldn't have the perspective that I have now. The moral of the story is this. Sometimes the things you're building isn't just building your future. It's building you. And looking back, I think that's exactly what God was doing all along.